Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Edgington, the city on the edge here in Timber and Stone 1.52. And Willow has just leveled up. Great, you'll be back. You'll be on the roads in no time, Willow. And we have a merchant. So I need to find Aeneas, and our fishers have gone a little. What's the phrase here? Astray. There are a lot of them all over the place, so I need to find them. It's Leonard. Does that mean this all the way over here is, nope, that's Letitia Vaughan. Where is Aeneas? Aeneas? Hello? Has anybody seen Aeneas? Anywhere. Anywhere at all. Trying to find you the hard way. Come on, where are you? Oop, okay, you're already a traitor is what I saw there, which means you're way over here. There you are, found you. God. Apparently you never got set back to being a fisherman, which is fine by me, because at least you're in your position right now. Okay, so how's working how for stone hose then? Tools. We're down to 3. Okay, we should make a fair bit more of these then. Let's make 20. Why not? I think all of these are, well, a lot of these at the very least are near to cutting stage, so we should be okay for wood. Alright. So, our subject for today. Last time we were talking about change, and we were talking about that specifically in the concept of how content changes over time. But that also applies to, specifically in my recent life, to how I present myself, how I dress, and various aspects that I've already covered at length a few times. Are you marked for herding? Herd that chicken, please. Oh, and here comes Beatrix. Grand! Within good range. That's one more chicken to our makeup. How much, like, feathers do we have nowadays? Come to think of it. 1013. Well, I think we're set for hours. So, I thought specifically that I would talk about it in terms of aesthetics. What exactly, like, why do we have this wide range of aesthetics that we like to throw into things? So we have steampunk as perhaps arguably the most obvious one, but I think slightly more obvious than that is, you'll give us 8 feathers in exchange for 12 cloth. No. That's a terrible trait, as we just saw. Slightly more than that is, I guess, the goth. Goth would probably be a good one to go for. There's very different stratas of goth, but the one that I'm specifically thinking is more obvious to most than steampunk is the sort of hot topic kind of goth, the My Chemical Romance kind of goth. And Beatrix, how are you? That's kind of cute, actually. Beatrix just got the chicken on her head. Okay. If it works, I guess. So then after that you have things like steampunk, where everything's brass and leather and it's made to look slightly pseudo-Victorian, but then you've got all these different sci-fi elements thrown in, and you also got, on a similar vein, diesel punk, which is sort of pushing towards the 20s, the greaser kind of era, that kind of thing. Not to say that the greaser era was in the 20s, but nonetheless, it's more in that kind of century. You've got various attempts to appeal to the medieval, so you've got the fantasy kind of genre getting into there as well. So you've got people who are off LARPing, people who are dressing in styles more common to me now, I have to say. What am I, fantasy punk then, I guess? Does that describe my aesthetic now? I'm not sure. And then you have all of the sort of like standard tropes of... Oh, we got a skeleton over here. Willing to give us 9 feathers in exchange for 13 wood. Still no! Keep your feathers, dude. A skeleton. Does he have friends? He has friends. Okay, there's 3 more over here. Can we go a day without skeletons? Please. Are there any more? There is 1 solitary skeleton over here. You're gonna be a pain, you know. Oh, these skeletons. Fortunately, we do have a well-trained militia. including paper crafting. Round 2. Level 16, so if you could handle that skeleton, that'd be grand. Where is he? Just over here. Okay. Level 9 Willow. Grand. So yeah, we have all these different things, and one of the ones that I've recently been exposed to is solar punk. Because if you think of, would we call it urbex punk or decay punk? I'm not sure. But there's a style of, there's the AUs of like the coffee shop, and then there's the AUs of like the found family or all sorts. The skeleton infantry spotted by Waylin. Waylin is one of our, like, apparently decently armored people. Yes, good, okay, you should be fine. And Letitia Vaughn's level 2, okay. Because we need more people on food. You should be fine, really, not to worry. Step. And again. Good. Alright, so you've got all these AUs, and then you've got a decent, another recent thing that I got exposed to called Solar Punk, and that focuses on sort of the distance, a lot of the same tropes as the distance, like, decay of society, of civilization kind of ideas. Paper, over here. Deal with that. But it treats it in a more positive light. So you've got foliage growing everywhere, but you've also got lots of solar power, and the buildings that are covered in vines and foliage and such are actually inhabited and are actually, like, prosperous and fine. And the idea being there that it's taking the benefits of renewable energy and it's just leaping them forward a couple decades to show a world that is sort of much more entwined and much more at ease with nature surrounding it. As opposed to what we are more commonly experiencing, which is, we kind of suck at living alongside nature. There we go. No problem at all. Yeah, another stone hoe is broken. Well, good thing we're making a bunch more then. And what exactly is it about all of these? Why are we so easily invested in these different kind of visions of, we call them punk, but a lot of them don't tend to be quite that punky. Mad Max, for example, is apocalypse aesthetic and such. Let's see. Yeah. Level 19 and level 17. You're doing well, Ines. You're doing well. Like, what could we describe an aesthetic for this? Possibly? I guess this is town punk. Like, there's a sense that we're establishing a kind of society, we're establishing a community here, but it's not quite the community that we're actually living in. Why are we so enamored with these different things? And I suppose part of it is it's different. It's not what we currently experience, which means it's a change, which means it is something our brains are latching onto because it's different, it's weird, we have to understand it. That's what our brains love to find. But then why do we codify it as well? Why do we say, okay, this is steampunk, that is, deep goth, that's metal goth? Why are we looking at Lolitas? Why are we looking at, Moe? Why are we looking at all these different categories and such when we're looking for something that's different? And it's a sort of expansion of the way that we like to find patterns. We look at things that we don't understand so we can try and figure out the patterns to them, and then we have these built-in patterns that we can reference. So we say, okay, that's not A, B, or C, it's like D though, so we'll codify it under that, and then we'll pick out the parts that make it distinct and such. Personally, I love urbex, I love watching things decay and fall apart over time. Life After People is definitely my jam. But evidently I'm one for looking pretty damn good in fantasy kind of stylings, I guess. Judging by my outfits recently. Okay, Kyo, I've got some more work for you. What level are you? 16 again? Okay, right. Actually, are you? You're not too far off level 17 either. You're not too far off being max level again. Well, congrats to Kyo, who is an overeater and clumsy. I don't know if that's an actual mark against the real Kyo. Some might consider it a mark against this one. I don't recall what the original one was. Okay, Kyo 2.0, you've got some skeletons to deal with. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, get over here. Come on. How close do I have to get you before you'll actually start attacking this thing? There we go. Good, take it from the side. Grand. There's a few more. Gather resources. This should not be a problem for you. You are level 16, you're packing 2 pieces of steel armor and a steel halberd. You should be good here. As long as you don't stand in front of them, you'll be fine. Just take full advantage of their pathing. And the flaws therein that we have discussed at length before. Yep, I know, you see it. There we go, all done. No bother at all. And now, you are very nearly level 17. Very good. Grand. Came out on top there. So, yeah, why do we yearn for these different environments? Why do we yearn for these different takes on an existing setting? Because it's at once familiar to us, because we're referencing things that we have in our world. We're referencing solar energy, for example. We're referencing urban settings being overtaken with foliage growth. We're referencing engineering works that get cars running through Mad Max. We're referencing gangs that we see in our own urban societies and such. These things individually are familiar to us. We know them, we understand them, and we're putting them into a context that is unusual, that is strange, that we don't experience in real life, that we don't have an actual full reference for. So at once we have something that's familiar, which we like to find, because it means we can understand it, we can engage with it as an entity. And we're making something unusual. We're finding something different, something that we can explore and figure out and tinker with and such, and we love to find that as human beings. It's our cognition, it's how it works. And then different aesthetics appeal to us for different reasons. Solarpunk is appealing because it's a look at the future that is different, but optimistic. It's taking place in an era that we usually ascribe to an apocalypse. We usually ascribe to some kind of dystopia. The world's going to fall apart, the world's going to decay, the world's going to be overrun by leather-wearing dudes with large metal implements and, weirdly still functional cars. We'd like to think that the future, at least in my generation, that might be telling for my generation more than anything else, is going to look at the future and see Armageddon. We're going to see something horrible, we're going to see something terrible, something that's going to be hard to survive, but Solarpunk flips that on its head and gives us something positive. It takes things that we can see in our current period of time, spins them forwards, and sees something benevolent, which is not usual. So Solarpunk diverges in that regard. And then you have the distinctions even between the apocalyptic, where you have the Mad Max kind of look of things, where everything's basically a wasteland and you're going to be roaming around looking for your drop of water, let alone anything else. And then you have the zombie apocalypse, where people are making out survival and such, but they have this horde of the undead behind every corner and the world's kind of fallen over as a consequence. And then you just have the straight up, I guess this would be the life after people kind of scenario, or you could call it the post-rapture kind of era and whatnot, where people are gone and everything is just falling apart. And I love to see that happen. I don't think I would want to live in that world, but I like to see it happen, which I guess is another element. In a lot of these aesthetics, we don't want to deal with... We wouldn't personally want to be in this world dealing with a lot of these issues, but we would like to be experiencing some of these things that we find cool and neat. So, for example, it'd be cool to live in a world where the ether was a mysterious substance that we used for electricity, and steam ran our every automated whim. That would be interesting, at least for a week or two. We'd love to go into a fantasy world where magic is, commonplace, and dragons fly in the skies at night and such, fighting orcs on the battlefield. We wouldn't necessarily want to actually be on that battlefield, but we would like to see it. It would be a change to our humdrum daily existence, and that's what we would find really interesting. Which is why people occasionally get strange glances when they say, you know, I'd love to live in a post-apocalyptic zombie dystopia. It's like, it'd be interesting, it'd be different. There would be challenges, sure, but they would be different challenges to the ones that we face as, like, a matter of our standard everyday kind of lives. What are you missing? You're missing one rope. Okay, we can make rope. Rope is fine and easy, because we have a lot of flax. I have 100 spider silk. If only there was actually some measurable distinction between those. And have we finished up? No, we haven't finished up on the mining. Okay, people are still mining stuff. Good. Good to see. Trip is now level 17 fisherman. Rats. And it's dusk, so people are going to be going to sleep soon. Okay. Changing of the guard. So yeah, let me know in the comments, what kind of aesthetics do you enjoy? Is it a punk, and how do you describe a punk? I know I'm going to be getting a long conversation with Fuzz after this to describe exactly what punk is to me, because they recently did a whole thing on solar punk, and they sort of suggested that as a subject for today. Level 11 herder. Erland, goods. Helping out, so we got ourselves a new chickie. I don't see any dead chickies, so I think we're doing good. Yeah, we've got 648 wheat. There should be no way that these should die. Like I said, I suppose they could theoretically block access to the trowel, but... or the trough, depending on how I pronounce it, but we should be fine. We should be fine. Level 9 Engineer Mary. Grats. I don't know if that has any actual gameplay benefit whatsoever, but welcome, thank you. Ooh, oh, you're sawtooth, okay. I thought we had a new forager, but then our food would need to be quite a bit higher for that, wouldn't it? Well, it looks like it's gonna be a fairly quiet sunset. Not seeing... yeah, there's the two there, but I don't think we're seeing... I'm not seeing any causes for concern over here, no causes for alarm. Everyone has plenty of food. So I think we're gonna be having a nice quiet night. Alright. So, yeah, punk might be a specific variation, a specific strain of aesthetics. But witch punk, for example. Urban fantasy is another one that's really fun, which I guess is probably the closest thing I fall into, come to think of it. That's where you take fantastical elements that you usually see in fantasy stories like magic and dragons and witches and whatnot, and you put it into an urban setting. So it's something we understand on both sides, but not together. That's the interesting part, is where they interlock. That's what we're trying to figure out when we look at that kind of thing. But yes, the lights are on. So I think that's about it for today. So... again, let me know in the comments. What do you think? What are your favourite aesthetics? What is it? A punk? What kind of punks do you like? And what would you describe punk as? And from here in Edgington, as everyone turns in for the night, hope you've all enjoyed. I'll catch you all, as always, next time.